I am Dave Lee, co-founder of International Podcast Day. We are in the studio of IPD up here in California within the United States. And we are just waiting on Sabeena. She is going to be representing the country of Nepal, and she's going to be speaking on the challenges and opportunities in podcasting in a country like Nepal, where podcasting has just started. And she is well known in that area. And she actually hosted and organized a podcasting workshop in Nepal in December 2019. So she's going to be able to share her unique perspectives on Nepali media and podcasting. That's going to be on display. And before that, I wanted to just highlight some of our International Podcast Day sponsors that made this event possible year after year. It's pretty incredible to have the support from a lot of professionals and podcast hosting companies throughout the years. So our platinum sponsor is Blueberry. It is a full-service podcasting company providing podcast hosting, stats, and advertising opportunities. You can find out more at blueberry.com. And our gold sponsor is repurpose.io, and they automatically convert your audio podcast into engaging videos and upload them to YouTube, Facebook, and other social media channels. You can try it out for free today over at repurpose.io/IPD. And Libsyn is our other gold sponsor. So Libsyn is a podcast hosting distribution and monetization solution for audio and video podcasters worldwide. You can reach your audience everywhere and on the most popular audience destinations like Spotify and Pandora. Find more over at Libsyn.com. And of course, our streaming partner this year is StreamYard. As you can tell, we've had very good success both in audio quality and video quality. So we do want to thank StreamYard for their assistance, and also our celebration supporters. I'd like to thank Second Line Themes, Geeks Rising Podcast Network, Synth, Outlier HQ, and Focusrite. And you can find, of course, more information about them over at internationalpodcastday.com/sponsors. And while we're waiting for Sabeena to hop on here, make sure you're out there using the hashtag International Podcast Day. It is a great way to connect not only with fans of podcasting as audio enthusiasts. It's great to connect with just everybody that's celebrating the medium today. And as you know, we really celebrate September 30th as the day in which we are celebrating all things podcasting, the power of voice, the power of communication. And we all know we have our one day, but the conversation and the energy and passion doesn't always stop at just this one day. We know that we're very very invested in this medium and pretty excited. So looks like Sabeena is coming on right now. Let me go ahead and add podcasting, the power of voice, the power of right. Sabeena, how are you?
Hey, Dave. Very good morning from this side of the world. I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good. So yeah, it's morning in Nepal. It's actually 8 a.m. and where I'm broadcasting is 8 p.m. here in the United States in California. We are very excited to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us. In fact, I was just checking the live video, and it says it has my name on it and my country's name. So Nepal, the country, it is very excited to do the debut in the International Podcast Day event. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are super excited to have you on this event. And I just love it. Being able to reach out to a brand new country and celebrate and feature you and Nepal on this event I love it. I absolutely love it. So I have done our sponsors and I have introduced everything. So I am going to get out of the way and I'm going to hand the reins over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Okay, namaste. A very good morning. As I was talking to Dave, it's 8:50 a.m. in the country Nepal. And my name is Sabeena. And my nickname is Sabs. That's SABS. My loved ones, my new ones, and even my listeners. Yes, I have been working in the broadcast industry for the last 18 years. And my listeners, they call me Sabs with love. Talking about me, well, I was born and brought up in the capital city, which is called Kathmandu. And the country I don't know that. I don't. I have no idea. Like you've heard about this country before or not. The country's name is Nepal. That's Nepal, and it is located between the two giant countries. One is India and another is China. So there is, in the world map, you can see there's a small country just located between India and China. That is the country where I belong. And yes, Nepal is very excited to share its experiences and the podcasting scenario that's going over here. Talking more about Nepal, well, before that, I want to share something like Dave told me I have around 45 to 50 minutes to share. So some people, especially non-media people, they might think like it's nothing, just 45 to 50 minutes. It'll just go like that. But coming from the media industry, every second it counts. When I used to work in radio station, especially we used to run live shows, and there sometimes in between the advertisement or some technical glitches, and when there used to be pause even for a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds, it used to feel like, oh my god, it's like, oh, it's like being the longest minute. So when you talk, so 45 to 50 minutes is a long time, but I have got my things ready. I have prepared few pointers. It is just in front of me, and I'm going to share those things with you. So back to Nepal. Well, Nepal is the newest republic in the world. Culturally, even if I use the word small, culturally, we're very rich and it's very diverse. Have you heard about Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world? Yes, that is in our country, Nepal. And tourism is one of the biggest industries in our country. Tourists, when they come here and go around, they call our country natural in Nepal, because every corner in the country gives picturesque view, and tens of renowned trekking routes, including ABC, that is Annapurna Base Camp, which is listed in various international magazines as a must visit route in one's lifetime. That is also here. So maybe next time when you think about somewhere to go in vacation or holiday with family or trekking, hiking, or getting close to nature, because nowadays we're like too hooked with technology, the digitalized world. We call it a global village, but we are so, like hooked to internet. So if you want to go out, breathe some fresh air, and want to get up close with nature, you're most welcome to my country. Once again, my country's name is Nepal, Nepal. And moving on, let me share my experience as a broadcaster. Uh, the radio history in Nepal, it started around 1951 AD. After the restoration of democracy, it started as Radio Nepal. Of course, you can guess it was state-owned radio. And the programs, the presenters, the information they used to disseminate, you can simply imagine it was very controlled, very restricted. And around 1994 AD, the FM station, I would like to say the golden era, it started in our country, Nepal. And it created a history because the freedom of content, and especially the phone-in programs, the music that they used to play, the interaction among listeners, it was a huge thing back then. And when FM started in our country, it created quite a buzz over there. And my journey as a broadcaster, it just started back then as a listener, I would say. When I was studying in around grade 8, I would say 7 or 8, I was ardent listener of radio station. Though those RJs, those programs, I was hooked all the time. And my ambition at that time, I had two ambitions. One was to be a lawyer because my dad is a lawyer and my dad is an iconic figure for me. So I thought I would be a lawyer one day. But still, even this day, that is the one incomplete dream. I have no idea what my future will be, but still, I have achieved my dream. And listening to all the radio, the RJs, and sending them letters. Yes, those days were letter days. I used to write letters to program presenters, and when they read my letter, they used to read my letter. Those were the days that when I go back and remember my those days, I it just brings a big bright smile on my face. And how did I start professionally as a presenter? Around 3 years, yes, after being
Hey, everybody. It looks like potentially Sabina's internet dropped off, so I'm going to get her back. Hey, she's back.
Yes, I'm back.
All
And
right.
yes, technical glitches. Well, coming from a developing country, the internet system, sometimes they work as a barrier, but I believe in overcoming all the problems and striving for success. Yes, there will be problems around, there will be barriers around, but what's life or what's success when you do not face any struggle, right? So, well, sorry for the technical glitch, and I am back to share my story. So back then, well, around 18 years back, at that time, my friends, they knew my passion for radio and the microphone. I used to run shows uh, in my school days, and one of my best friends, she showed me an advertisement at that time that the most popular radio station, they they announced a vacancy for the RJs, and yes, I jumped into applying, and I wrote a letter and just went to the radio station and dropped it. And I still remember while going there, the most who's who, the RJs, got to meet them, talk to them. Wow, you know. And after that, they called me for interview. I was luckily selected. At the times, even thousands of people were on the queue to give interview to get selected as an RJ. Luckily, going through 3 rounds of interview, I was selected. I still remember the MD of the station. He said, "You're a kid. You've just started. You are in grade 10. You will be running late shows. You're a girl. Are you sure you're gonna do this? Are you sure you can do it?" He asked me that question so many times, but I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, I will do it because radio is my passion." So looking back, what I think is after my radio career, I think passion is the thing that you need in this industry. If you're a podcaster and watching me, or if you want to enter the podcasting world or any media world or any work, passion is the mantra, the key of success. I would say if it's only your hobby, it will take you nowhere. But if you are passionate about it, you will, compromise everything, or you will, as I mentioned about the barrier thing, a little time back, you'll just overcome and you'll just, go up and up and up. The road to success, that is. And the MD said, "Yes, girl, little girl, I can see that fire in your eyes. You're welcome to our station." So after that, my radio journey, it started. And in my 16 years of radio career, I would say I saw and experienced a lot of things. 16 years, especially talking about the political thing. At the time when I just entered the radio, the Royal Massacre happened. At that time, I mentioned a little time back that right now it's the newest republic country in the world, but at that time, Nepal was a kingdom and monarchy was there. But At the time, the royal massacre had happened, and the reigning king, his family was killed. So from that thing to the monarchy, it was wiped out from the country, and the Maoist war. And right now, as a republic country, I had seen a lot of things and experienced a lot of things. And connecting that change with the media world and the broadcasting industry, I still remember those days once, the king at the time, he seized the power and he sacked the government, and the military, they were in the station, they took away all the equipment. And imagine you're sitting there, next up is your program. We used to run live shows, and someone, the military guy, just standing behind you with a mic, and you have to just go on live and say, hello, namaste, and welcome to the show, you're listening to me. Whoa, those were days. But passing all those days, beautiful days, are here to stay. And talking about the social changes or the internet, the drastic things socially, and the internet changes, how I would like to share is, we started the interaction of listeners from letters. So many letters, the letters, I still have few letters stored with me, the special letters, like some were written with blood, and some used to, back then there was no social media, or they were just listening to us, and they, as in like my listeners, they used to sketch and send you sketches, like how they have imagined you as a fairy, as an angel. And at that time, we used to joke around and say, hey, letters, 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 letters everywhere, letters even in your underwear. So those were days. So from letters, we moved on to SMSs. And from SMSs, we moved on to Facebook. Yep, the social media. You're speaking, you're live on air, and within seconds, your people, your listeners send you message. And even, the online streaming, that was in demand when I almost quit my radio. Online streaming thing, the power of internet, that has definitely, come really above more than we expected, I would say. And now, moving on, let's talk about podcasting, the U turning this season, why I quit my radio. As a listener or as a layman, you can just see, as an impression, you can see like you're working in the most prominent radio station of the country. You have an awesome job. You have fame, and you're getting paid every month. It's superb, As a layman, you can see like it's going on. It's great, in fact. But I was not happy because I read somewhere, as they say, when you're too comfortable, your progress stops. And I thought that was happening with me because I used to go on a regular basis to my workstation. I had everything ready, my people helping me out, choosing music, and arranging guests for me. Everything was on the plate. There was no struggle. And as I mentioned earlier, when there's no struggle, I just don't enjoy it. So I thought it's big time I should move on. Also, few factors that affected at that time or the comfort zone was, I have listed few pointers I would like to share with you all. Number one was the corporate interest. However, unbiased media try to portray, but it has business to do, impact of which every broadcaster faces. Example, alliance to political power, in most of the case, ruling party. The content against the corporate alliance will lead to dissatisfaction and bounces back in a way or other. So I think I do not need to elaborate more on that. Also, the sponsors rule. I used to run almost 9 shows a week. Yup, 9 hours. I used to run many, many shows. And luckily, those shows were on top, you know. The data showed that almost for a decade, those shows were on top among the country's radio shows. But having said that, the sponsors, of course, it was a commercial radio station. It would not have gone further without the commercial success. But sometimes you are endorsing something that you do not want to endorse. You know that is hampering the society, your even your family, your friends. But you got to endorse it because it's a commercial FM station. So the sponsors rule. I was not liking that. Also, the hierarchical interference. There were producers, the senior producers, managers, and so on, fully equipped with modern business flow chart. And the impact is easily visible to any broadcaster. Another thing was the fixed timing. You know, the time at the time, especially at the ending of my radio career, since the booming of social media, the news was there, updated second by second. But if you want to present that issue, you had to wait for a few days because that was the time constraint on radio. Also, the repeated feedback, with due respect to all the listeners, but the same listeners giving you the same feedback, and you are not learning anything new. And one fine morning, my dear friends, there was not anywhere to go. You even ran out of proper guests to host the talk show that I set to certain motives. All broadcasters need is freedom of expression without any censorship, as loyal and responsible broadcaster is always self-censored and liable to its impact. Hence, decided to quit and start own channel podcast. And how did I know the word podcast? I I have an American friend whose name is Andrew Vogel. He's actually my husband's friend. If Andy, we call him Andy. Andy, if you are watching this, I don't know you're watching this or not, but this video will be in archive too. So any day, if you'll watch this, a big shout out to you and a big thank you to you. Yes, he was here in a country. He was here as a tourist and he was staying at a place. You know, during my radio days, I told you all the pointers. I was skeptic what to do next and how should I move ahead. And there came Andy. Yes, he was there with his iPhone. And whenever he used to get free time, he used to go another room, lay down on the couch, and just play with his mobile, and used to listen something all the time. And one day I just asked him, just randomly, and what do you listen? Is that radio, or you're listening to, I heard, interviews, interesting kind of shows? So what's that actually? And then podcast happened, my friend. He told me, like, this is podcast. You have no idea, Sabeena. Podcast in Western world, in America, it's a huge thing, especially when I commute or when I exercise or when we go travel, you know. We just download some shows and we listen to it whenever we have convenient time. That was a turning point for me, the turning point, that statement that hit me really bad. And he said, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you start your own podcast? And yes, that was really eye opening. And you know what, how I started? I was running live shows on radio station. So slowly I used to save those shows in computer, and I opened an account in SoundCloud. Yes, I'm still using SoundCloud. I know, like, there are many kind of discussion on this platform, but right now we're using this, especially in a country that's a popular it's a popular medium, that's a popular host, because, you know, be it like data security or the online payment system or other technical glitches, we find it the easiest one. That is also one of the reasons, so please don't get surprised. So I opened an account. Right now I have a pro account, but at the the time it used to give like free hours every month. So every episode, especially my popular shows, I used to upload it over there. And almost after 2 3 months, what I found is like the feedback that I got from SoundCloud was massive, in fact better than radio days. The best part of podcasting is you cannot lie, your data says everything. In radio days we used to say like millions of people listening to us, but how can you count million? You're just speaking like that. But in podcast, the data, the statics, yes, the stats, they used to show everything. So slowly my listeners, they started listening to me on SoundCloud. Also, luckily, I would consider myself very lucky. I started my social media on right time, and my followers, be it on Facebook or Insta or Twitter, well, by God grace or the passion or the hard work, I have good followers on social media. So that is also one of my strengths, which gave me power to quit the most loved job, or I would say the job I dreamt of. I quit radio, and then I started, finally one day I started my podcast. And the name of the podcast, it is called Sab's Cast. How did the name form? I think you've guessed it, because in my intro, I told you my nickname is Sabs, Sabs. And from podcast, I took the word cast. So Sabs and cast, they formed a word. That is the name of my podcasting channel, that is called Sabs Cast. And the content selection, especially the sense of freedom and the proprietorship, that is so beautiful when it comes to podcasting. In radio, I so missed that. So I started uh, my own show. Actually, one show was very popular that was called, in our language, in Nepali language, it's a long name though. It's called Yo Maya Bhanne Cheez Yestai Ho. Yo Maya Bhanne Cheez Yestai Ho. It's called The Love. It's a love show actually. Love not only among your loved ones. It can be love for your career, for your pet, or for your country. So I talk about different aspect of love, and basically I talk all the positive things, because kindness, we can see, like, be it like the war, the cold war on social media, or the jealousy going around, or be it the war among countries, or being rude, so many things. Kindness is getting, well, rare these days. So my show, every podcast, I talk about spreading love and spreading kindness. So I used to run that show on radio, so I brought that show on my podcast. But due to copyright issues, I had to change the name. I changed the name, and then I started my show on Sab's Cast. And uh, few examples that I would like to share with you is when like you're working in a leading radio station, popular radio station. Whenever you call people for interviews to be guest in your show, hello, I'm calling from this station. Would you like to be there on my show? And they're like, yes, why not? Because that's a big platform. That's a leading radio station. Let's do it. You used to get that kind of prompt replies. So I was a little skeptic, like, now I am an independent broadcaster or podcaster. Even it's just 3 years that I've quit radio, and still I would say podcast is not a known word to people here in Nepal. I'm struggling. I am making a tribe, and I am making community, collecting podcasted, but still we have a long way to go. However, the path looks beautiful and the scope looks beautiful. And you know what happened? I was skeptic, like, oh my God, I am right now, I have to start from zero, because people have no idea when there's burning issue, you want to invite your guest, and hey, I am no longer associated with that station, I'm working on my own, would you like to be a guest? That kind of skeptic feeling was inside me. But I was really passionate about podcasting, and I had made a dream I would be doing impossibles. Because if you're going on a different path, and if you like, do not bring anything exclusive, how will that leave impact or leave good impression among people? So I approached the former king. I talked about monarchy, right? I talk about the Maoist war. I talk about the republic thing in a country. I approached former king, the last king of the country, for an exclusive interview. I am Sabeena. I am an independent podcaster. Podcast is a new thing, sir. Would you like to be my guest? Yes, through different channels. Luckily, the when in the media industry, not only media industry, be it any sector, your assets are your people, the network, the connections that you have. I would say, please do not feel hesitated to approach them or meet new people or make contact, because these people are your real assets. So through different channels, I approached him. I got a chance, and he said, well, Sabina, look, if you were associated with any the formal or professional stations, I would have denied. But since you've started something new, you're independent, I'm up for it. And my friend, that gave me another big push that I should do it. I should not go back. I should move forward. We had a small interview. I can send you that link to. So in audio industry, that created a history, because the former king, he hadn't given any interviews to any audio form. But as an independent person, I went, and I did not have any fancy kind of microphones. Talking about the technical thing, I believe content plays a big thing rather than big fancy equipment. All you need is real content. So if you're looking at me, or if you're watching this video, if you want to start podcasting, and if you think like, I got no money to buy equipment, I cannot afford fancy microphones or headphones. No, 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 my friend. All you need is zeal, Zeal, zeal and passion. Yes, the smartphones these days, the mobile phones, they have inbuilt nice microphones. So if you can bring real, raw, and concrete and special, exclusive kind of content, that will work. So technical thing is never a barrier for you. So I went to meet the former king. That was on his birthday, and I went with a bouquet. I went with my mobile phone. I just did a small chit chat, made a small video, and uploaded on my SoundCloud, and that was also a big point. And after that, I went to meet the prime minister of the country. Well, it has a long story too, but I think it's only 33 minutes, and I have so much things to share. So I'm gonna skip that story, but keeping that story short, I have written an article on a popular website too. Meeting prime minister as, like, as an independent person is definitely tough, but however, struggled, and I went, and I recorded a podcast with the prime minister of the country, and he expressed good luck to Sapscast and good luck to podcasting in the country. That is a very nice thing, and that video is still there on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, and yes, it has got 1 million views, of course. So one thing that I also believe is, when it comes to podcasting, we run after, especially the media people, we run after the same celebrities, the same actor, the same singer, or the same politician. But even in my radio days, I used to believe that everybody, especially the media industry, everyone will definitely run after them, follow them, and bring the same content. but you can find a celebrity on the street too. Yes, especially who are talented but are on low profile, especially I prefer promoting or boosting their talent. And one I'm looking at the live session too. If you have any question, I think at the last few minutes we can do a question and answer session too. So almost 22 people online. Thumbs up. Thank you. I hope you're listening to the conversation. Well, one a fine day, I was just while podcasting, I was thinking like what I should bring new to people. Maybe there's something raw or real. What should I do? So I still remember that was like Women's Day, and I was on the street walking. I saw an old woman. She was on the street and preparing popcorn to sell on the street. I just went with the microphone and I just asked her, Mother, it's a Women's Day, International Women's Day. Do you have any idea on that? And she said, well, doesn't matter, be it Man's Day or Women's Day. Doesn't matter to me. Well, that was a smart answer. And I just saw an old man on the wheelchair on the side. He was with his long face, looked very sick, and his wheelchair, it was also dismantled. I just went to him and I just talked to him, and I got to know that after the war, from village they had come to the capital city and they were living under the tent, and his wheelchair, it was dismantled. He was in need of a wheelchair. He had applied in the hospital, but no source, no voice, and it was already few months, but he did not get his wheelchair. So one idea, it struck me. I thought this might be an opportunity to make something real, something exclusive as in from people's point or their experiences, their sorrow. Let's do a podcast. And I just interviewed them and I posted it on my social media. I just wrote like, that's his story and he is in a need of wheelchair. It will cost around $150. So I guys gonna help him. If you're interested, please message me. After that, I got around thousands of messages, my friend. Thousands of people, they messaged me saying, yes, I'm interested. I wanna, I wanna contribute. I wanna help him. I wanna meet him. And I decided, I discussed with my team and we decided like we cannot afford all the people on board, so we'll just do the lottery thing. We'll just pick one name and he will be sponsoring his wheelchair. So I just did the lottery. I picked a name and I went to meet those people, the man and the woman. And the man on his wheelchair with a big bright smile, when he saw me, you know what he said? He said, thank you, lady. Thank you. You shared about me on social media. And a couple, they came to meet me and they handed me around $200 and they said, please buy a new wheelchair. I was stunned, gave me goosebumps because I have no idea who that couple is. They hadn't talked to me. They went directly to those people. They, handed that money and they just left. So, the power of podcasting, my friend. I've written an article about them too. So, whoever they are, a big salute from my side, from all of us. And you have proved that podcasting is definitely power. You have the power to become voice of the voiceless. So if you want to listen to that podcast, I will keep that link on this video. And talking about the most asked question to me, the query, it's about sponsors. How do you make money? Well, I have to be very honest. I believe in keeping things transparent and sharing what is the real scenario. Especially in a country, making good money in media is difficult. If you're into media, if you're focused, if you're passionate about it and only doing media, Well, money, making tons of money is almost impossible, but you can make a living out of it, a normal one. So, talking about podcasting and the sponsors and the fund, it is still struggling in our country. But as I mentioned earlier, it's looking beautiful. I mentioned about the online payment thing. I talked about the data, the security, right? So these kind of constraint, um, I hope like in the future days we will be having easier days when it comes to business transaction or the online payment thing. Also, the conventional, the traditional thought about marketing or selling product is slowly changing. People are moving into online thing, be it Facebook ad or the YouTube ad. Nepal is also moving forward. But podcasting, yes, I had my first show sponsored by a bank. Yes, it was a sponsor almost for a year. It was also a big help, and after that, it branded my show, and after that I got many sponsor offers. I mean, many approached me as a sponsor, but I do not want to sell my product for peanuts. The amount that they were willing to pay was not that we deserve and we expect. So I would rather struggle. I would teach more classes. I would do more podcast workshop. I would do more MCs or more voiceovers. But when it comes to podcasting, I said I am not gonna sell it just like that. So yes, hopefully in the future days, Sapscast, monetary or commercial wise too, Sapscast will be getting sponsors, will be, getting what it deserves and it expects. So that's the thing. And talking about the visual media too, almost a month back, I was invited to one of the radio stations to give a lecture about podcasting. That was a pleasure because they had their new employees and they were conducting a training session. So, radio station inviting a podcaster to talk about podcasting was a beautiful thing. But what I found out was 90% of the training session, it was all about visual media. Can you believe that? A radio station conducting a training session, and more than 90% they were talking about how to make videos, the multimedia thing, the visual thing. Well, that's a thing that should not make us surprised, because when you see the data nowadays, the visual thing, the video thing, the YouTube thing, or any kind of video, they are definitely taking this space. However, having said that, podcasting is another thing, which is, on the side, which is rolling on, which has its own beauty. So you can use the visual media to promote your podcast. I especially, whenever I podcast, be it a small bit of, the interview bite or any kind of lovely quote, I just make a video and post it on my social media. I use a visual medium. I only use like few seconds or few minutes. I do not do like 1 hour long uh, 1 hour long video to promote my podcast. Also, I do not use YouTube. I use it, but I do not prefer YouTube as a podcasting medium, because podcasting is all about ears. It's all about listening to you. You do not want to, like see a screen which is just there, which is not moving, but you want to listen. So it's like least preferred a platform for me, YouTube. So basically, uh, nowadays also good thing is like from many platforms, I get emails like, hey, we have your listeners here, do you want to get it monetized? So that kind of thing is also coming up. And talking about my first day of podcast, well, I did it live, the live session, because I used to run live shows on radio. So my first podcast, the professional podcast, I did it live. Yes, I took help of few people, the technical part, and we established a website, a link, and I sent it to listeners on my social media, telling them like, hey, I'm going to podcast in this channel. It's going to be live, so please do listen to me, do give it a listen. So Thursday it was 8 p.m. and oh my god, gave me goosebumps. And when I spoke it, I hired 1 hour of a studio, going to a studio, hiring that, taking a website, I mean a link, and going live through that thing, the technical glitches, the internet problem. However, the data that it showed, it was record breaking. The live listeners that I had at that time, that was so beautiful. The interactive listeners, the feedback after that, whoa, lovely thing. Also, the good thing is the feedback that I got from my radio colleagues. It was very motivating. I got call from my radio colleagues telling me like, I want to start it. Hey, podcast is a very new word. It's definitely an alien for most of the people, but seems like we can do it. I think we should. I think I should do that too. So that kind of suggestions or that kind of feedback from my radio colleagues, the former colleagues, was also very motivating, I would say. And right now, talking about the current scenario, well, most of the content are pre-recorded. I run a regular show. I talked about the love show, right? So basically it's all about spreading positivity and spreading kindness. And you know what kind of feedback that I get? Once a listener wrote to me like, hey, almost I was almost on the state to suicide. I was almost there, but I listened to you for a few minutes, and now, well, I'm saying a big no to suicide. I'm struggling, and I will do what you want. And on Insta, one lady, she DM'd me, do you have any idea about TikTok or Musically? That's an app where you just, like look at the camera, see faces, and make videos. And I just, like on my story, I posted like, hey, the younger generation, so much of TikTok, so much music videos. Why is that so bad? Sorry again, the technical glitch. She DM'd me saying that, hey sister, do you know I am in depression? Yes, I'm in depression, but those apps, they are keeping me alive. They distract me from the suicide, but I am alive. So I would like to say a big thank you to those kind of apps. So see, those kind of examples, the generation that we're catering right now, they are so much into social media, and social media, yes, it is causing depression in many of the youth, I would say. So this kind of era we're living in, the voice that we have, it is power. Podcasting is all about power and disseminating such kind of info that can change someone's lives. So basically my podcast, it's all about saying, hey, wake up, do something. The future in Nepal is beautiful. Let's create a beautiful world together. Do not look for someone who will change your world, but be someone who can change someone's world in a beautiful way. So basically that's a thing. And I don't have a studio at home, but I go to a studio where they charge me some money, and I just go because when it comes to my show that I talked about Thursday 8 p.m., that show that goes regularly. Every week, and at that time, well, I do not want to compromise sound quality on that, so I record that on the studio. Other shows, I just, sometimes I just go into my wardrobe and just record it on my mobile. And sometimes the acoustic sound, that's very important. I don't have any hi-fi or any expensive kind of equipment, but all I have is a passion for podcasting. And we're almost 48 minutes, right? Well, lastly, a few things. The challenges I would like to say. The challenges, number one, I can see is awareness, especially, the word podcast and how to do podcast, how to listen podcast. That is still a challenge. So awareness is very important in our country. Many big media houses, they're also coming here in the podcast industry. They're keeping their shows at podcast. So big media industry, the big media houses, I would say, they're coming aboard and keeping their shows as podcast. That's also a nice thing. Also, different apps, especially the most downloaded apps, they are keeping shows as podcast. That's also a very nice thing. Also, the right funding thing. Well, I talked about the commercialized thing, about the monetary thing. um, money right now, you might not feel like, hey, it's a struggle, but after few years, money is here to come, and money, you are of course here to stay. At least 5 years, I think 5 years you have to give to create audience, to create a brand, to create your own brand. So after that, money is here to stay, and podcast is of course here to stay. Also, the technological ease, I would say, someone like living under the tent, and but with mobile also, here you can see like, where should you invest? Food or podcast? This is a country where people live under $1, so food or podcast, that's a quite challenging kind of option. But the communication, the internet, the importance of communication has overcome the daily necessity as well. So my personal dream is one day when one the daughter-in-law living in remote area, she recording the plight and sharing on social media. That is the day that I am dreaming for. Especially the podcaster right now, they are recording shows, especially the entertainment shows and political shows. But we have so much to do, be it socio economical, cultural, or so many genre that we should cater, and more podcasters should join in. That I would like to say. And the last thing that I want to mention about is podcasting workshop. Just like the way I felt really nice when I saw the name, my name with my country's name, being there on international platform for the first time. It is such a nice feeling. So last year I conducted Nepal's first podcast workshop. I did not have sponsors, I did not have big help from anyone, but I made it happen because of the listeners' support. I just posted it on my story saying that, hey, do you want a podcast? Do you want to learn podcasting? It's technically not too hard. You need to have a smartphone, and you need to have a zeal to speak. If you want to join the podcasting tribe, you're most welcome. And I got around like 500 emails or queries from around the country. So I collaborated with one of the Indian podcasters. I mean, he's a Nepali guy, but he's ruling the podcasting industry in India right now. Is Vijay Gautam. He conducted one session last year in the same platform. So Vijay, if you're listening, a big thanks for helping me conduct it. So last year, and we selected 20 people from around the country. We sat in the same place, same hall for 3 days. And from that lot, few are coming up, recording their podcast, and they are struggling to, but they are trying to bring nice podcast. And this year too, yes, this year 2019, almost in December, I would say. Yes, Dave, I can see you. I'm just about to wrap up. Well, this year too, we're planning our Nepal's second podcast workshop that's going to happen after a few months. So please, guys, wish me luck, and thank you so much for listening to me. So nice sharing all my thoughts. Thank you. Back to you, Dave.
Sabs, amazing. I absolutely love the story. I love that you are paving the way for so many other Nepali podcasters. I impressive as far as the workshops, as far as leaving your dream job to go ahead and get into the podcasting space full time. I absolutely love it. And I love that you're able to share some really unique challenges from the Nepali area that some other podcasters in particularly other spaces aren't really struggling with. So it was really great to hear that you're pioneering, you're paving the way in podcasting, and congratulate you. And that's exactly why I wanted you to be on the stream to share your story and so that everybody knows what's going on outside of the borders of their country. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Dave. And yes, a special shout out to you too, to all our viewers watching us. Dave sent us a video when we conducted Nepal's first workshop, that is podcast workshop. He sent us like 30 seconds clip saying that, hey, best of luck. We run International Podcast Day every September 30th. So best of luck from the team. And that was quite a motivating video. Thank you, Dave. And if you guys want to watch it, Dave, why don't you put one link over there of that video?
Yeah, well, I know it's here. I'll have to find the link in the studio. I'll have to drop it in the chat room. So yeah, it was great, and I'm glad to inspire. And you're an inspiration for several other podcasters I know. So Sabeena, I can't thank you enough. Where can somebody go to find your podcast?
Well, I am available on iTunes and Google Android podcast, well, Google Podcast, and many other Stitcher and other podcast listening apps. You can just type my name, that's Sapscast. You can just search for my name. My name is Sabeena Karki or Sapscast, and I'm just there. I have few English podcasts too. So yes, I have interviewed few of the influencers from that part of the world too. So voila, you can listen to me and enjoy my podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sabeena, for joining us. And I can't thank you enough. International Podcast Day is not the same without you this year. So thank you so much. And that's going to wrap up this hour. And thank you all for joining us so much. We will be back with another session in just a moment.
Bye.